What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Real Talk Real. I'm your host, Knowledge. And I want to talk to y'all today about a real touchy subject, not only in the black community, but I believe a lot of men and women across America could attest to it. Child support. Yeah, motherfuckers start hanging their head and walking out the door when they hear child support. And I think that's due to all the different experiences individuals have had coming into contact or being on child support or filing child support claims or cases, I should say. And, you know, I haven't met anyone that has had any good results, especially men, respectfully. I haven't met anyone who had good results coming from child support, so I wouldn't say it's a good thing, but another unpopular opinion is it is a gift and a curse in the black community. And not only in the black community, for a lot of individuals that are parents, you know, that goes to the mothers and fathers, if you know, custodial and primary parents. Yeah, real touchy subject. And to be honest, you know, I've had my own child support experiences, and I'm currently going through child support experiences now. That's been hell. And first and foremost, I want to start off, this is not a bashing video. This is not about which we could go into that, but this is not that. You know what I'm saying? You know, my personal belief and from my personal experiences, there are a lot of biased, unfair things that happen within child support cases and systems, but, you know, respectfully, every situation is different. Along with that, I just want to start off first and foremost and saying this is not a bashing towards any women, mothers, or men, fathers that are currently collecting child support or going through child support cases. Trust me, I know from my own experiences, it's hell. It's stressful. And respectfully, also my personal belief, the child always gets the shitty end of the stick. You know, no one really acknowledges what the children or what the child has to go through and how the different aspects or different levels of going through child support cases and situations, and, you know, splitting parents, how that traumatizes the child, which is important. You know, individuals be in it for financial gain or be doing things out of spite, or in actual cases, you know, you have individuals who create these children and they didn't ask to be here, and they don't want to take part, or they don't try to take part in the upbringing and the care of these children. And it's super unfair. You know, as we know, the women, the mothers in these situations, they have to deal, respectfully, they have to deal with more of it. Someone said to me recently, you know, women, they don't get to leave like the men do in most cases. You know, the women, the mothers have to be there every step of the process, every day, every second. Whereas, you know, it's a common thing where the men are in and out, or just out in general, or in small few cases in, you know. But this is not to bash any of the women who are currently going through child support situations that are actually real, you know, that actually need assistance, because there's plenty of women and men who are sole parents of children who actually need the assistance. It's fucking hard in America nowadays, 2024. It's hard. And, you know, as I said before, you have individuals who help create the child but don't want to take part in raising them and doing what it takes to provide for them, whether that be financially, physically, emotionally, all those things, that's important. And I speak from a place because I'm a human, I'm an adult now. I was a child, you know what I'm saying? I grew up in the welfare system, my mother receiving child support payments, us growing up on food stamps. So, I don't have nothing bad to say about that. It definitely came in handy. It definitely fed us as children. And, as some part as adults, you always got a mom or a sister or somebody who's still receiving assistants who, help out in different ways, or you probably eat platters or foods that they cooking, so this is no diss to food stamps, because we all grew up on those. Most of us anyway grew up on those, and a lot of us still receive, buy, sell, which is illegal, by the way, so don't be out there doing that. Yeah, so this isn't a diss towards food stamps per se, because they do help feed a lot of hungry families, a lot of hungry children. Now, the child support system is fucked, and that's just my opinion. Excuse me. I'm based in New Jersey, where the child support laws are, crazy. They're strict. Still acknowledging there are a lot of single mothers or single fathers out here who actually need the government assistance, whether it be stamps, whether it be cash assistance, or Section 8 and things like that. There's a lot of different departments and levels of the welfare system. But today, respectfully, we're just speaking about child support and all of the bullshit that comes with that. And like I say, I can only speak to my own experience and my own experiences and those that I've come across in my 32 years. So diving right into it, as I said in the beginning, child support is some bullshit. It's very biased, it's super unfair, and I know a lot of different families and cultures receive assistance or are caught up in the welfare child support system. And there's a lot of biases, especially here in New Jersey. It's just crazy, man. I don't even know where to begin, to be honest. So for context, as I said, I grew up in the welfare system. My mom received food stamps and government assistance, Section 8, all that, And with that, I grew up with an absent father, My mom had her boyfriends and eventually her husband, who played as father figures, and uncles who were, male figures in our lives. But I didn't grow up with my father. They were never married, and respectfully, I'm the youngest out of 5 children. So I'm assuming when my mother and father separated, she put him on child support. And just to put it out there on the table, today being 32, I have a decent relationship with my father, my dad. It's based on other things that life has brought upon us, but it's in no way, shape, or form because of the great father figure he was. I respect him, I got love for him, but to keep it real, my dad still ain't shit. He got over $50,000 in child support from his 5 or 6 children, and most likely he'll pass away still owing that. They not getting a cent from that man. And it's not funny, it's not cool, because we were deprived of things growing up because of his absence or his lack of going hard or his lack of being present, all those things. And my mother had to go super hard, or there's other men that had to come into her life and try to fill that void. But for any person alive can say there's nothing like your actual father being in your life and being raised by that individual who helped create you. you know. So no one could take the place of, you know, especially in my situation, I can't speak for anyone else. No one could take the place of my biological father, you know. That absence was definitely felt, and it was definitely missed, you know what I'm saying? But to get back on topic, my mother received child support payments, and, you know, growing up in the welfare system or on the welfare system, hearing stories or seeing individuals like my dad or my uncles or my older brother once he had children being constantly arrested. You know, child support work a little bit different than it did in the 90s and early 2000. They still do enforcement, but there was a point in time, certain days of the week, Tuesdays, Thursdays, them hop out boys, they riding around with pictures of individuals that owe child support payments, that's behind on the child support payments in their arrears, and they was picking niggas up. Word up. So I grew up seeing my dad, my uncle, and brothers and things constantly in and out of jail because of missed or behind child support payments. And as a kid, I couldn't fully fathom it or understand it, but I just knew they were on child support and they weren't making their child support payments. Another aspect I heard about growing up, and that's not always discussed, you know, those opinions and experiences are expressed, but, you know, it's also a thing in the black community. Us as men, we're expected to always be strong, you know, we're expected to not break down, to always hold it together and not have bad times. Furthermore, it's hard for us to express ourselves. Not only in most cases, we're not given the comfort zone or the freedom to do so. There are so many stereotypes and criticisms that come with being vulnerable, come with expressing yourself, you know what I'm saying? So that's another struggle with being not only a black man, but mostly with black men, but men and women in our community, you know what I'm saying? So, but another aspect of the child support, and I'm really experiencing that nowadays as an adult, the deduction from your pay. You know, child support is what it is, but you never really know what it feels like to work hard for 2 weeks straight, 80 hours plus, expecting a decent or full paycheck, and here between taxes and child support, you grossing over $1,000, over $2,000, and you walking away with $100, $200. You know, that's time you can't get back. That's money you can't get back. And still, respectfully, we're going to touch on the topic about ultimately how that's going to your children or your children's mother, you know, for the child, supposed to be for the child's benefit, but we're going to touch on that too. You know, it's supposed to be going to the child, so that's the good thing about that. But as an individual, to work for something and it's consistently being taken away before you even get to see it, it's a hurt piece. Unless you actually been there, you do not know that fucking feeling. To work for 2 weeks, work 100 hours, 80 hours to 100 hours within that 2 week span, doing hella overtime. And sometimes when you know child support is going to deduct, sometimes you go extra hard to try to compensate for that. You know what I'm saying? And you get your check and it's barely enough to scrape by for the next 2 weeks to make it to your next check, where it's going to happen again and again. And I don't justify these actions, but being in that place now, actually experiencing it as an adult, and I don't justify this at all, but I now understand why back in the day, niggas said, fuck that, I'm going to the streets. Fuck this job. In a lot of cases, which ain't right, I would never say that, but fuck these kids, fuck that baby mom, fuck this job. I'm going to the streets and get this fast money where I can't be taxed. It's fucked up. But, like I said, unless you actually went through that and had your whole check, or majority of your check, taken from you, you don't know what it fucking feels like. And just for perspective, because like I said, I know there's a lot of stereotypes in the hood when it comes to black men and children. In a recent video I saw on Instagram, a guy was explaining his child support situation and his trials and tribulations and what he was going through. And he was based in California. So I decided to go to the comments. One of the very first comments at the top was a female. She started off by saying, I'm a caseworker, and if men would just not, or would just stop being deadbeats, child support wouldn't exist. I was perplexed. I could say something else, but that shit upset me, knowing what I went through and what I'm currently going through with child support. And then just going down the line, you know, with some people who understood or had different opinions and respected, which, you know, everybody's entitled to their opinions and perspectives and, you know, based off your experiences or whatever. But reading all the criticism, all the stereotypes, some females were going on to say, oh, y'all men just need to wear condoms. Like, what? So every man or every individual that's on child support is automatically a deadbeat? And, you know, some people would say, you know, oh, the man should have wore a condom. But don't it take two? Just like he had responsibility to put on protection, don't you got the responsibility to make sure he don't go inside you without protection? But no, he should have wore a condom. It's just crazy, the misconceptions, the misinformation, the misguidedness, and the criticisms, the biases, and the double standard when it comes to child support. And I really, you know, I really feel that shit. And this is another reason why I had to film this video here. Because like I said, I've been avoiding the topic because it's a very touchy subject, you know. And for some, it's emotional. It's angering, you know, depending on your individual situation. But like I said, I can only speak about my experiences. And just to give you context, my daughter is 12 now. She'll be 13 this year. Me and my daughter's mother, we were together probably 2 to 3 years prior to my daughter being born. And then we were together, I would say, another 7 to 8 years on top of that. So ultimately, me and my child's mother, we were together about 10 years in total. And I was like in-house living with my child, you know, respectfully in a relationship with her mother the first 8 to 9 years of her life, until just a few years ago where me and her mother separated. Now, going back to the beginning, like I said, I grew up with an absent father. I grew up watching my uncles and older brother and father being constantly arrested or going through trials and tribulations with finding jobs, and their whole check or majority of their check is being deducted, so they revert back to the streets, which caused a perpetual cycle of them going to jail, racking up more on arrears through the child support system because being able to not work, and you know, now being incarcerated and not being able to pay, not being able to make those payments, and it just continue to stack up on them. And then, you know, they come home, same thing, try to find a job, all their money's being taken. They get tired of that because they still gotta eat, pay bills, whatever the case may be, and they just revert back to the same ways. And in no way, shape, or form am I justifying negative, illegal, or those individuals' actions. But I do see and understand what worked best for them at those times in those situations. As I said, either way, with the mother or father, no matter how you look at it or what you do, the child always suffers. The children always get the shitty end of the stick, and that's just what it is. So my situation, my child was born from delivering our child. My daughter's mother, she gained a hernia. She got a hernia. So with that, she had to go through the surgery, and with that, they said the healing time would be about 6 months. So she couldn't immediately go back to work. Respected, with that being said, we were trying to breastfeed. I believe she, respectfully, we decided on breastfeeding, and she breastfed our daughter for the first 3 to 5 months. I believe after a while, her breasts weren't lactating enough or more, so we had to switch to formula, which initially we didn't want to do, but we had to do what we had to do. With that, she got government assistance, went and signed up for government assistance. The WIC, what comes with all the forms to get the cheese, the milk, the juicy juice cans. Y'all remember them? We used to drink our little brothers and sisters and nieces and nephew cans. That shit was good as hell. Side note, the Cheerios, all the shit that come with the WIC forms, and of course, food stamps and things. It was understood, and I knew from my own experiences growing up, that when the father is known and when the father signs the birth certificate, it's documented. So when the mother goes to get government assistance, food stamps, Medicaid, or whatever, now the Board of Social Services is looking for reimbursement. On another video, we'll get into the history of how all this came into play. But ultimately, they want reimbursement for the benefits that they're giving out. And it's been going on for so long, and there's a common misconception that, if a woman is getting assistance, the father is absent or the father is lacking and can't provide. They go straight to the father. And in a lot of cases, that is the case. So with that, if the father is known, meaning if the birth certificate is signed, or if they ask the mother the identity of the father, they seek out reimbursement for the benefits given out through welfare and the Board of Social Services. So I knew once we had to sign up for WIC and government assistance and food stamps to make things easier, and while she's out of work recovering from a hernia, and I was working a job that I was only a few months in, and it was still tight. Things were tight. There were still things we had to get and do and just live and survive. So we had to get government assistance, but it was agreed upon and it was understood between my daughter's mother and I that most likely I would be put on child support. And right away I was. But with that, it was different. We were still together. I was in house with, respectfully at the time, my family, my daughter and her mother, and we were together. And so it benefits us all. It benefits us all to receive this assistance now. But it was also agreed upon and understood that it would only be for a certain amount of time until she healed from the hernia, got back to work, and we got in a better financial and living situation. 6, 7, 8 months go by, And from her being active and strenuous and constantly lifting and moving, the hernia came back in the midst of her healing process. So that meant another surgery and then another 6 months healing and not going back to work, which was fine. I was moving up in my job pretty fast, a little dietary aid job, but we was making bread. I also worked part-time with my brother doing camera installations, small electrical wiring and things like that. And eventually I got hooked up with my peoples. They had this overnight contract cleaning jobs where we get certain contracts and go clean. So I was working. I was excited, had a new family, my daughter was here. It was great. And also needed that extra income to supplement what child support was taken out. But like I said, our agreement was for a certain amount of time until we get back on our feet. And as time went on, she eventually healed and went back to work. But there was no urgency to take me off child support. And at that time, respectfully, we didn't have any issues in our relationship, going into my daughter's second year being here on this earth. So now we get into about the third year, and now we are having slight problems in our relationship, but we're still living together. We are still in a relationship. She's working, I'm working, and she's still receiving assistance, and I'm still on child support. So now it's been 3 years. I'm actively in this relationship. I'm actively working and providing for my child. And during those 3 years, every time they deducted from my check, none of that money was returned to me. And not to say I was expecting it, and I never even asked for it, because it's still going to our household, it's still going to our family, it's still going to our child, in a sense. But I wasn't one to ask for it back or gave my bread back, because it's for us. It's still for our child, whether it go to whatever, the food, the electric, whatever, you know what I'm saying? It supports us as a unit. So on top of what I was providing and doing for our family, our child, and simultaneously she was working too, she was still receiving those child support benefits and keeping it all. So now 3.5 years in, I'm pressing the issue like, okay, can you take me off child support? Now it's hurting, now it's hurting us, what I mean? We can be using these funds to better our financial situation, better our life, do more things as a couple, all that, you know what I'm saying? But my daughter's mother at the time, she was just dragging her feet. She had no interest in taking me off. And I'm sure, obviously, like I said, she was keeping all the payments, so she was benefiting from it. And to add to that, respectfully, we were going through things in our relationship, so she wasn't motivated at all. Long story short, 5 years in, still on child support, but during that 5th year, we're on better terms. Our relationship is better. Our daughter is a little bit older. Work situations have shifted and changed. So we come to agreement. We're on good terms. We come to agreement. We decide to write the letter, go up to the courthouse, file the paperwork, do whatever we do to get me off child support. Because as I said, we're still in a full-fledged relationship. I still am living. We are all still living together. I'm actively taking care of my child. And I would also like to say, one thing in the Black community, we don't plan out our pregnancies. We don't plan out our children. And I would never go to say my child was a mistake. Everybody have different opinions and perspectives on this topic. But, you can consider it a mistake, an accident, or a blessing from God. You know what I'm saying? But we don't plan out pregnancies. A lot of our children just like us, didn't ask to be here. It's fucking impossible, right? But, so, you know, with growing up with an absent father, a part of being a parent, mother or father, part of being a parent is providing the experiences and providing your kids or your child with the childhood and the things that you never had. Just ultimately doing better and raising them better. You know, that's, I would assume, everyone's dream for their children. Just to have better, do better, be better than who I was and what we came from. So with growing up with an absent father, I already knew what type of father I was going to be. You know, I have to be present. I have to be there. I don't want my daughter to ever go without me. I don't want my daughter to ever, you know, wake up and I'm not there, or I promise that I'm going to come and get her and she's waiting for me and I never show up. I never want to put my daughter through what I went through as a kid. So I already knew with having an absent father and all the things I felt and went through growing up, I wasn't going to put my daughter through that. So even if I was going through hell, I was willing to withstand and endure those flames for my motherfucking child. Because also I acknowledge she didn't ask to be here. That's my responsibility. So whatever it takes, I'm going to do that. And, you know, a lot of people did consider or call me a fool at that time for being in-house, being in a full-on relationship with my child's mother and taking care of my child while simultaneously being on child support. But it was one of those things that I was willing to deal with and sacrifice for the betterment of my relationship, our family structure, and our family in general, you know. But ultimately, it was for my fucking kids. So whatever I gotta go through, I'm gonna go through it. And I did. 5 years in, we came to the agreement, you know, it was gonna take me off. She wrote the letter, we went up there to the courts, did everything we had to do. They immediately wiped out the child support. I only had an X amount in arrears that I had to pay, which I made that payment ASAP. Child support done. Excuse me. Child support done. So yeah, we went on the next 3 to 4 years being in a very, I wouldn't say toxic, but you know, our relationship had ran its course. And a lot of times, I'm sure some of y'all could agree, a lot of times in relationships, it would have been ran its course, the love would have been left, but sometimes we just stay in it. And that's not fucking healthy. It's not healthy for the individuals that's in it, and if there's children involved, it's definitely not healthy for the children. Forcing something that is no longer, you know, or no longer healthy, you know, or beneficial, not financially or anything like that, but like, you know, there should definitely be growth. It shouldn't be stagnant, you know. And respectfully, at that time, you know, our relationship had ran its course. We knew it was over, we knew it was up, but we still stuck in it for the last year, couple months. And then we finally separated. Still on great terms, because I've always been a great parent. I've always been active in my child's life. For perspective, and I don't have anything to say really bad about my daughter's mother. She can be a great individual, definitely a decent parent, you know what I'm saying? So when we separated, we were on still good terms, speaking terms, you know, we could still call, vent, you know, get advice from one another, or, you know, just joke around or whatever. We still had great communication because ultimately we have a life to still take care of, to still raise, you know what I'm saying? We're still responsible for that. So despite what goes on between you and I, or no longer goes on between you and I, that doesn't change our responsibilities. And I've met plenty of men who were like, oh, if I can't be with you, I'm not taking care of the kid. That's just crazy. because once again, they didn't ask to be here. And you know what that does to the child. Like I said, they always get the shitty end of the stick. So we separate. We're still on good terms. Whatever. You know, we worked out parenting time between us. We don't need any courts. We're adults. We're mature. You know, we're level-headed. So, you know, we don't need courts or any other individuals to go by their standards to handle our business as parents. We can do that, and we should be able to do that cordially. You know what I'm saying? But when new relationships come into play, and for context, within the first year that we separated, she was already with someone new, had a new individual in the house around our child. That's your business. As long as they ain't disrespecting or touching my child, cool. But I was already hearing things within that first 6-7 months. Things were occurring that I never even did. You know what I'm saying? That's just not in my character. But, you know, within the first 6-7 months, my daughter was witnessing and experiencing her mother go through things that she's never went through being in a relationship with me. Those 10, 8, 9 years. You know what I'm saying? So it was wild, but like I said, all I could do is give advice, which we were still on good terms, and I gave her advice when she called and asked for it. To get to my point, within that first year, she had her second child with this individual that she was dealing with. Still, no harm, no foul. God bless you. God bless you on your beautiful new family. You know, hope everything work out. You know, that's not even my style. And with me, you know, I was living life or whatever, living a bachelor life, but I wasn't in a relationship at that time. You know, I was just living. I was focusing on really figuring out who I was, building my shit back up, and, you know, trying to do something with myself. Coming out of this 10-year lockdown in a relationship, you know what I'm saying? So she had a child within the first year. No ill feelings. I wish the best. I've even, like I said, I've given her advice when she called on some of the complications, things she was going through with her new individual. And that's just me. That's the type of nigga I am. Because at the end of the day, despite us not being together, despite you moving on and starting a whole nother family, having a whole nother child, you're still my daughter, and respectfully, I have a daughter. So with her being a young woman that one day will be a woman, you're still her biggest role model. Being her mother figure, being a woman, and respectfully being a black woman. I never disrespected her, in a sense, verbally in front of our child. We had a few arguments, but I never called her out of her name. We had a few situations where it got physical and not domestic violence type shit. I would never put my hands on a female, but you know, I definitely have to stop her from putting her hands on me. She almost gave me a black eye once. I ain't gonna lie, she hit me in my shit a few times, but that's just not my style. You know, I didn't grow up witnessing my mother get beat on, and that's just something I'm against. I wouldn't stand for, and definitely with having a daughter, that wasn't my forte. That wasn't my style, and I definitely wasn't going to start anything new. But with us being separated now, I still wouldn't go as far as to disrespect her or anything like that, because you're still my child's mother. You're still one of my child's biggest, if not only, woman role model, and you know, you still have to be an example for her. So, especially in front of my daughter, I'm gonna give you all due respect. You know, I'm gonna treat you how I would want another individual to treat my child when she becomes a woman. You know, and hopefully not go through some of the same experiences, but you know, when she go through these experiences of just being a mother and being in a relationship and being in and out of love, you know, we have to set that bar, we have to set that tone early. So that was never an issue as far as domestic violence in our relationship. But like I said, year in, my daughter was witnessing things, and you know, being in a good spot with my daughter's mother and us talking and her venting, me giving her advice. She experienced things with this new individual within that first year, on top of having a child, that she never experienced with me in 10 years. But we were on so good of terms that she could call and ask me for advice, because that's the type of individual I was. Not only the type of man I was in the relationship, but obviously after the relationship. And I was always a good father. I was always present. I never left my child. I never left her alone with my child. You know what I'm saying? In the sense of, we didn't necessarily separate. It was a few times we had hiccups throughout those first 5 years, but nothing detrimental. We still ultimately stayed together. But to get to my point, when she had this new family and going through all these things, there was no ill feelings. I wished her the best. God bless to you and your new family and your baby. As soon as I found someone, as soon as I found my partner that I'm with now, oh man, all hell broke loose. Man, I can't even tell y'all some of the shit that I've heard, some of the things that my daughter had to endure or go through. And you know, I'm keeping it short because I've already been giving y'all a lot of detail, but you know, I chalk it up ultimately to you know, the individual I'm with, who, she's a great individual. My daughter loves her. She loves my daughter, treats her like her own, and goes above and beyond for my daughter, so much so. And I'm sure this is the part that my daughter's mother didn't like. You know, from the time that I introduced her to my daughter, which I didn't do right away, my daughter met her new partner within the first year that we separated. My daughter didn't meet my partner until 2-3 years after me and her mother separated, but probably a year and a half after me and that individual were together. My daughter and her didn't meet. So, but once they met, they kicked it off. I mean, they're the same astrological sign. They went through some of the same experiences, you know, being the only child, then not being the only child, and things like that. So they just clicked. But she was so impactful from the rip in my daughter's life. My daughter went back to her home, just being an innocent kid, went back to her home, and now she's talking about this new woman that's in her life and all these new amazing experiences and things that she's experiencing. And it's not me doing it. It's not me rubbing it in anybody's face. And I'm a very private person, so you won't see a lot of that shit on Facebook or Instagram or nothing like that. It's my child and her pure innocence, just being excited, just being happy, and being pleased with, you know, the new individuals that are in her life, her new experiences, her new knowledges, her new knowledge, all the new knowledge that she's gaining. And people didn't like that. People didn't like that. Now it's all these foul, ignorant things being said, being done, spiteful things. And before we get back to this child support thing, we try to go through the process of like, yo, you know, she approached me like, yo, your daughter need X, Y, and Z amount. I'm like, okay, I already provide this amount and I get all the things that she need, you know, on my end, besides what you do for her. I can get those things, so let me know what it is that she needs, and I can get those things, or me and my partner can get those things. But she refused to do that. She preferred payments. Okay, Me, once again, growing up with an absent father and seeing everything all these men in my life or that were around me went through, I knew already growing up, becoming a parent, I better keep all my receipts. Everything that I pay for my daughter, everything I get my daughter, keep my receipts. And I did. From the time she was born, I have boxes on boxes of receipts. Of course, lost some or threw some away, and over time.